Hello, friends. Welcome back to Out of Patience. In the world of science, where logic is sacred and chaos is in charge, things fall apart for reasons no one writes down. When ambition collides with bureaucracy, when brilliance hits a budget ceiling, when the system tells you to quit, one guy stays behind to take notes. So when the bench goes sideways, we send in Oliver Bogler. Here is the latest dispatch from Standard Deviation. Take it away, Oliver.
Imagine a gifted, hardworking young scientist on the path of realizing her dream, running a research lab and leading vital life-saving investigations that harmonize with her identity. Now imagine that just as she is completing her PhD, she changes direction, not because of a failed experiment or because she lost interest, but because of a shifting political landscape that derailed her and then made her take up a more urgent mission.
My parents are also a little like, oh, you wanted to cure cancer and now you don't? You know, what happened? What changed? And I love science. I love what I do. I love being at the bench. I love doing experiments. I wouldn't change the fact that I started a PhD program 4 years ago at all. I love what I do. I think that there are more important things at the moment for me.
I'm Dr. Oliver Bogler, a cancer biologist supporting scientists and telling their stories. This is the story of Marissa Russo, a PhD candidate whose scientific dreams were disrupted, pushing her onto an entirely different career path. It's a story that reveals the deeply personal impact when blunt policy decisions collide with individual ambition. But it's also a story about how even in the chaos and disruption of 2025, a resilient individual can find a new calling.
Got interested in science in college. I actually kind of fell into wanting to do a PhD because of COVID.
Initially, research was just something that could get her out of the house during the shutdown. But then she got interested in the intersection of the brain and cancer. She was hooked.
I think that when I was doing research and I kind of had the first positive result, that's when I got really excited about it. And I was like, oh, I definitely want to be a scientist.
Her work focuses on a recently discovered way that cells communicate with each other in the body via little packages that are shipped between them, called vesicles. She wanted to know if they play a role in cancer.
My hypothesis is that these extracellular vesicles, specifically their cargo that gets communicated to these non-cancer cells, is what helps the tumor become more aggressive in that specific area.
To pursue her dream of leading her own lab, Marissa needed a grant, a crucial step for any young scientist.
You know, it's important to be able to write grants that explain your project in a way that people will want to fund it. They see it's important. They see why you're doing the research.
Her PhD program recognized this skill as being important.
I think that my institution really prepares us to be successful in receiving a federal grant. Not a lot of programs give training for this.
She applied for an F-31, which is the main NIH grant for graduate students. Her project focused on one of the deadliest cancers.
The tumors that I study are adult brain tumors. The patients who get diagnosed with this tumor have around a year to live and almost 100% recurrence. The reason why my research is important is because it would be adding to a field that is in grave need of advancements.
Marissa's application was eligible for the Diversity F-31 from the National Cancer Institute, reflecting her belonging to an underrepresented group.
Yeah, so my first submission was to the diversity grant. I am a Latina woman. I am also part of the LGBTQ community, so I qualify under those diverse umbrellas from the NIH.
Marissa's goals for herself took account of her identity.
I really wanted to do research on underrepresented communities as well. And so that was a big piece of what I wrote about. Another big piece is that as a Latina, having somebody who looks like you in research, talking to you about research is really important, especially when it comes to going out into the community and talking with patients and gaining trust, building trust in science.
But seriously, why do we even think about diversity in science? Surely it's just about who is the best. They should get all the chances, the funding, and the accolades, right? Well, I believe, as do many, that diversity strengthens science.
I think that your identity can really dictate how you think, how you form ideas. And, if we're just getting ideas from the white man, then we're, not giving space or maybe somebody else will think in a way or find a solution that you never thought of.
Marissa had done everything right. Her initial application was well received, but as is often the case, it was not funded.
So I had submitted it the first time and I got a score back. It was a decent score. I got really good feedback and comments that were very doable so that I could rework my application and resubmit it and have a really good chance.
She refined it, addressing the feedback, and resubmitted it in December 2024.
My PI really wanted me to resubmit because he thought I had a really strong chance, a really good project, and this would allow me to stay for, that extra year and a half to really wrap up my project and have a really strong contribution to science.
But as the Trump administration began, a communication freeze descended. Her grant application, once a tangible step towards her dream, began to flicker in and out of existence in the system. She remembers sitting at her computer.
I was working on something else and I saw an email flash across the bottom of my computer that said, there's been an update. And I felt like a pit in my stomach because I was like, oh no, they did something happen?
The message came from the system NIH uses to manage grant review.
And so when I logged into my portal, I had seen that the area where it says the study section date and time, and a couple days before, those were filled in with the date and time. The second time I returned after receiving that update email, it was just back to blank. And I was extremely confused.
This was, as the most overused word of 2025 has it, unprecedented. Marissa asked her mentor.
I immediately, called my PI into the office and I was like, this is happening. I don't know what's going on. It's blank. And so we were both destroyed. We didn't know what was happening.
So they waited.
A couple days later, I got another update email. I log back in and I have a study section again. And I was like, this is great news. I again send it to my PI. I'm like, we're back in. I don't know what happened, but we're back. And, we were riding this roller coaster of emotions of being excited it was assigned, devastated that it was taken out. And now we're back to excited it's being assigned. A couple days later, again, an update email, the study section is blank. The date and time disappears again.
If it wasn't so destructive, this level of bureaucratic incompetence might be funny. Of course, Marissa and her mentor had an idea of what was happening behind the scenes, the chaotic dismantling of DEI initiatives at NIH, widely discussed in the media and online. They anticipated that the diversity version of the F-31 that she had applied for would disappear. NIH more or less confirmed it, finally.
I had contacted a program officer at the agency, and I was like, hey, what's happening? My grant keeps getting pulled in and out of study section. That program officer met with me and advised me without saying much, just saying, I think you should withdraw and resubmit.
Marissa was lucky. Many of her fellow applicants didn't even get that information in time and didn't have a chance to resubmit to the regular F-31. Marissa did. She had 10 days to the deadline.
And at this point, what I want to say is that I was extremely devastated. I didn't want to submit this thing again because this whiplash that I was getting hit with from the NIH was too many back and forths.
Her mentor had other ideas.
He convinced me, along with my committee, to resubmit it, scrape all of those diversity buzzwords off of the application. And I just remember begrudgingly doing this. Like, I was so upset the entire time I was fixing my application. And, at the end of the day, it only is a couple of words, in your statements and what it is about you. But to me, those were really, that's who I am. And a lot of that helps me be a good scientist and also will help me be a great scientist in the future.
What was the world of science saying to Marissa and to countless other young people seeking their place in the world?
It was a very belittling and shrinking feeling that I felt because I was now having to lie. Because what I wanted to do as a scientist was all of these things, because this is what I'm passionate about. And I think with science, passion really steers a lot of how you work.
To be competitive, an F-31 application has to articulate the career path and aspirations of the fellow. In her diversity application, Marissa had explained how her identity as a Latina and as a member of the LGBTQ community were integral to the scientist she wished to become. But now?
How was I going to write into words that I wanted to be an independent scientist without including those things? Because when I think about being an independent scientist, it includes those studying underrepresented individuals, being an underrepresented individual myself. And so I just remember being so angry.
Marissa put together what she could in the time that she had. At least this time her grant didn't get deleted, but it also didn't get funded.
My heart just sank into my stomach, and I just stared at the screen for like a good minute, being like, what the heck just happened? Like, how did this happen? Why did I even do this in the first place? I stressed so much. I prepared an application in 10 days, and it was all for nothing. I had really high hopes, and they were just crushed.
The feedback for her hastily rewritten application stated the proposed timeline was too aggressive and not feasible.
I didn't have enough time to rework an application that would fit the now 1-year timeline I was asking for in money. So I think I was at a huge disadvantage applying.
She had to make sense of it all.
What does this mean? Like, is my science not good enough? And what did I say that wasn't good enough this time? I think it just hit harder because everything that I had to go through to get that third submission at that point in, like, I had really high hopes.
She has concluded that her diversity application, which she didn't have time to properly rewrite, just didn't fit the regular F-31.
I do wonder what would have the outcome been if I just, put a mask on and hid from the fact that I am a diverse individual and I wanted to do these things, and I just played the game and said all the right things and did all the right things in that first application, and would I have been successful?
But Marissa was not going to put on a mask. Instead, she pivoted to another path, not her first choice, but another direction for which she also had passion and skill: science communication.
A lot of things were happening around science with the new administration. I think that really bothered me a lot, that how was science not becoming a priority? How are we so misunderstanding science? And I think at that point, I got really passionate about wanting to find ways to communicate science better, to reach lawmakers, to reach others who make decisions on how science is conducted.
Marissa was a natural.
When I have students in the lab figuring out how to explain this really complex thing that's happening in a clear tube in a way that will actually make sense. And so that is something that I have always enjoyed.
She had been thinking about communication as an alternative since the election, when rumors about coming disruptions to U.S. science started circulating. Now she began exploring whether there was a path there.
And I stumbled across the Mass Media Fellowship, and I figured that was like the most perfect thing that could exist for me.
Marissa got into the program and was matched with Stat News.
And you go and just act as a science journalist for 10 weeks. And it was an extremely life-changing opportunity. I'm really grateful that they took a chance on me who, I didn't have journalism experience. I just was really excited and passionate, and I just loved it so much. And so not only was it a huge learning experience for me, but it really changed, what I wanted to do as my career.
But this new direction, while vital and exciting, comes at the cost of letting go of her original dream, leading a research team. Dr. Russo's story asks us to consider what we lose as a society when promising scientific careers are derailed not by a lack of talent or dedication, but by the unpredictable currents of policy and bureaucracy. It's a reminder that scientific progress isn't just about experiments in a lab. It's about the dreams of the people who conduct them, and the systems that either support or suppress those dreams. I'm sure we'll hear from Marissa in the future. I look forward to it. This is Oliver Bogler with Standard Deviation on the Out of Patience Podcast Network.